This is a pop-up studio at Digital Media Forum in Dubai, and we're having our first guest for today.
Hello, I'm Chantal Rickards OBE. I am the former Chief Executive of the British Academy of Film and Television Arts in Los Angeles.
Chantal, it is great to have you as the first guest in our pop-up studio. What an interesting way for us now to engage, right? So we're setting up sort of mini interviews at the events, and I've heard your session was dedicated to creativity in content. So what do you think about the formats that have evolved now? YouTube is going ahead of the television. So what's your thoughts about that?
I think it's incredibly exciting. I'm very pragmatic about everything that the new tech-driven world will bring. I think we have to embrace the technology because we can't do anything else. We can't turn the clock back. I probably watch more content on YouTube now than I do on television, but that's not to say that I'm not using television in the same way. I am. It's just the balance is slightly different, and one comes via a digital format, and the other is good old-fashioned television. So I use them both, but yeah, probably my content taste runs more towards what's being offered on YouTube.
So it's an interesting dynamic, right? So creators' economy is doing its job. I think there are more and more YouTubers who are driving a lot of trends that probably are also good for the TV series, yeah, right? Or for the TV shows. So does that frighten you, or does that make you more excited?
No, I think it makes me more excited. I mean, most of my YouTube content is podcasts. I mean, I love podcasts. Yes, it's radio with pictures. Radio feels as though it's old-fashioned, but actually it isn't. We've just managed to take our television cameras into the radio atmosphere, that personal atmosphere that only can be created by 2 or 3 people chatting together, and has made a whole new world out there. And the podcast world is incredibly important, and a lot of information is shared that way. And I like my information now, and my news actually, delivered to me through podcasts.
Where do you think the place for the podcast in this content world with a great number of different formats? Even the YouTube itself has got it's got a great number of different formats. Something is more engaging, but something is probably more thoughtful. Everything serves its own purpose. Yeah. Where do you see the podcasting fits into that world?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting question in that I think just as there are already multiple platforms and multiple ways of experiencing creativity, this is just another one of those ways. It's how we can further service people through their needs to read, write, understand, share, and be part of the wider world, and that is just coming to us in lots of different ways and on different platforms, and it's to be greatly appreciated.
Your topic for today's keynote speech was how do we keep creativity human, or is there a space for a human in the creativity world where technology actually can do some certain things much faster?
Indeed.
And what is the answer?
Well, it's a bit more complicated than a yes-no answer. I mean, I think that human creativity is not dead and never will be. I think a lot of what fuels and energizes a script or a story comes from human experience, and I don't think that can be replicated yet by a machine. I mean, quite simply, AI doesn't know what it's like to fall in love. AI has never experienced FOMO or loneliness or hunger. These are all parts of the human condition. For good or ill, they're all part of the human condition, and they shape our experience. They shape how we write and we tell stories, but also how we appreciate other people's stories. And it's only when maybe you will read Romeo and Juliet, a perfect Shakespearean play, and you will read that, but your experience of how you fell in love or how you had your heart broken comes to add to the appreciation of what you are reading or what you are seeing on the screen. And AI will never have that. It might understand the trends, it'll understand how people write about being in love. It will never be in love itself.
It will absolutely. It resonates with me so much. I mean, AI obviously cannot replicate the entire world to be able to be as smart as human altogether, right? It's an interesting point that you've also developed during your presentation, during your keynote speech today, and it resonated with me a lot. I work a lot with the B2B content, content that is being produced for brands or by brands. In tech, for example. And the biggest question that I always ask and I'm trying to solve is how to make B2B business content more engaging, more consumable. What is your take on that?
Well, B2B doesn't need to mean boring to boring.
That's true.
It needs to mean interesting. It needs to engage with the recipient. And that's all part of storytelling. I mean, the advertising industry is full of people who are telling stories to other people, which, yes, ultimately is trying to sell a product. But they're also making sure that they're doing it in such an interesting way that the message that the person is receiving is taken on board with emotional impact, with resonance, and with a realness that means something to them, which is going to propel them to go out and buy the product or to feel better towards it. So it's incumbent on everybody in this industry to make sure that how they do that is interesting, informative, sometimes fun or funny, clever, and relevant to the consumer that they're talking to. So boring to boring, no, forget it, can't do that. Make it interesting, make it relevant, find the right target audience, and tell them something they want to hear in a playful, joyful, and interesting way.
So it's basically bringing in a lot of human element into something that we got used to have as a business content.
Totally.
Either a conversation, either a backstage, I don't know, of some kind of process, etc., etc., and definitely lots of video, I guess.
Yep.
So I would like to I'd like to ask you about the creative economy or creators economy. Getting into speed. Do you think that the current way creators economy is developing, it is intended to produce a lot of sort of commoditized content that is supporting how algorithms work versus something that could turn into a real meaning or the real ecosystem, delivering a much more complex value than just, let's say, reels intended to scroll stop?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, clearly the ad industry is now leaping towards personalization, so that creative concepts and constructs will come to you in a way that feels incredibly personal to you. And that can be good and it can be bad. When personalized content started a few years ago and I started receiving things via my digital media that was personalized using my name, I didn't like it. I felt it was too intrusive. I was not ready to be addressed by my first name. I just felt that brand had gone too far and they needed to back away. But clearly now that younger people have grown up in the digital marketplace, that's all they know, and they want their digital media to speak to them. And I think that's absolutely great, but my fear is that we drive young people so much further towards just having a digital experience that they miss out on real life. Right. IRL is really important just for the nourishment of human beings and the human mind. So I think personalization is going to be really good in many ways, but I think in other ways we have to be careful not to just drive people, most especially the young who have more fragile minds, to a place where they are isolated inside their own algorithmic bubble.
Where is the place for, let's say, deep, serious content? that is not intended to entertain straight away?
Well, I think podcasts is a fantastic example of that. There is very good debate in the podcast space. Here, internationally, whether it's talking about commerce or talking about politics or talking about world affairs, I think that's where podcasts are absolutely, they are resonating so well around the world. Not just in this market here, in the MENA market, or in Europe or in the US, everywhere in the world is taking up podcasts in a way that suggests to me that people want to be better informed. They want depth. They want something that has weight. And that flies in the face of the idea that everything is being homogenized and we're all asking for the same thing.
Yeah.
We're not.
We're not. We're just being given one and the same thing, probably, in a way, right? But you're right. I mean, we keep on saying that the attention spans have reduced to sort of 8 seconds, 10 seconds. Yeah. But at the same time, you can easily consume 2 hours content on YouTube if it's relevant, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, yesterday it was lovely. I had a day off before our conference today, and I walked around the Dubai Mall and around the DIFC, and I had a podcast on all the time, 4.5 hours of just listening to podcasts. There's lots of different things, business podcasts, political podcasts, and some real life documentaries. And it was absolutely fantastic. I was never alone. I didn't want to be alone. I wanted to listen and appreciate something as I was just on a lovely walk.
Yeah, it's a great example of how our consumption habits have changed, but also expanded in a way, right? So we used to watch TV only, and now we have the opportunity to do it differently. Yeah. I have a question to just bring it to the region a little bit. Compared to the market where you are regularly working, how is the MENA market to you? How is the Dubai market in terms of content, creativity, trends? Where do we stand? What do you see? It's always interesting to listen to someone who's coming to the region because you've got a fresh eye on it.
Well, I mean, if you look at what's working for television shows and movies out here, this market is mature and is no different from many other markets. I mean, I think one of the biggest shows out here has been Shogun. Now, clearly it's quite an exceptional TV series, and you'd think, well, is something from 17th, 18th century Japan really going to work in this market? But you would think that about every market on the planet. Would that work in America? Would that work in Europe? Would that work in MENA? But clearly, that particular show is resonating everywhere. So I think this market is as mature, most particularly where there are really interesting stories and people are taking those on here from all over the world.
What would be the main challenge in terms of consumption? How do you see it, let's say? Because it's a multinational environment. Yeah. And consumption habits are probably different from what you find in more of a mature markets, let's put it this way.
Well, I mean, as I mentioned earlier on, I was working in China earlier on this year at the Golden Panda Awards. And we had a conference day where we were talking about how to share content around the world and how to create things for markets that are, you would think, very, very different. But actually, it goes back to basic storytelling. We all want to have stories about the human experience, love and loss and hope and desire and danger and the sort of things that make us who we are. And if, as content makers, we want to find things to share around the world, we have to go back to those human experiences and human values, work out what is common, and a lot of things are incredibly common, that will bring us together around the same idea. And of course, now that we've got all the technology to version things into other languages instantly, that we are able to share content much more quickly and much more appropriately. Whether it's an accent or a dialect or the way that things are said or the shape of the program that is brought to you, all of those can now be brought to you in a more personalised, geographic way, and that will make it more acceptable.
That's true. That's true. That's a really great point. So before we wrap up this short interview, I'd like to ask you, what do you want? What do you want the media audience, the MENA media audience, to stay with after listening to this conversation?
To keep telling great stories, keep selling great products, make sure that a human being is at the heart of everything that you do, mind, body and soul, and make sure it's ethical.
That's great. It was lovely to have you as the first guest in our pop-up studio. Thank you so much. It's great having you in Dubai.
A great
enjoy
delight,
the
Lara.
season.
Thank you so much.